love the technology.
Yes.
I need something to go viral, so that would help. Do you want to go?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about language because I'm passionate about language, and that may seem a very dull and dry subject, but actually... So, you can use the language for all sorts of things. Think Martin Luther King, I have a dream, the power of those words. The other reason that I think I'm very passionate about language is that it's linked to thought. And there's a long debate that's been going on for many, many years about which comes first, language and thought. And I think that's very interesting. And for me, language, if I had to choose, I would say language comes first. An example, some recent research has been done about crime, violent crime, and people were asked what they thought were the solutions to violent crime. For one group, crime was talked about as a beast, right? And the answers to that group were that crime had to be stamped out, crime had to be overwhelmed, there had to be very draconian punishments. To the other group, crime was presented as a virus, the virus of violent crime. That group had a much more rational and scientific approach, and they talked about understanding the causes of crime, finding ways to stop the crime spreading. So the actual language you use can influence the way people think about things, and that's incredibly powerful. So, power for bad or power for good? Language has tremendous power for bad and has been used in a political sense. My very favourite writer, and I know you are all so much younger than me, but I'm sure you've all heard of 1984 and Animal Farm because it's like a school book. They like school books. George Orwell was very passionate about language too and really saw how language was used for power and manipulation. And in 1984, he invented a language, Newspeak. 1984 is this dystopian view of the future that was actually written in the 1930s. The language was really simplified, so everything was black and white, no shades of meaning. So he created new words that are still in the language, like thought crime, doublethink, very political words. Remove the negative, so there was no word for bad in Newspeak, it was ungood. And we use these kind of things in business, and that's why it's become very, very relevant. What happened in politics is happening in corporations. So, for example, I know an HR director who, seeing the chaos of one of his efforts, rather than admitting it was bad, said he saw negative excellence. We use it to rationalise bad things, so using scientific terms or mechanistic terms to make things seem less bad. So, for example, in war, instead of talking about killing loads of innocent people in Korea, North Korea or wherever, the Americans may talk about pacification, which doesn't sound nearly as bad, going back to even the Nazis and the final solution. And in business, we do that as well. We've gone from downsizing to right-sizing, and a phrase I had the other day, which was absolutely terrifying, was sift, lift and shift, by which I think it means you pick people out, you take them out of their jobs and you sack them, but sift, lift and shift, what is that?
Sounds like a power.
So we use it to dignify bad things, we depersonalise it, we use the passive rather than the active, so instead of actually people owning decisions, saying, I want you to do this, we'll say things like, for the avoidance of doubt, it has been decided that. So, power for good, what can it do for good, which is really important? Language creates empathy. If we talk really from the heart and we use plain words that people can understand, then we get into each other's heads. And that has tremendous power, as we can see in the best examples on the internet, for collaboration, for sharing, for empathy, which is the one thing that can stop a lot of very, very bad things happening. Also, we can use it cleverly, it's fun, it's creative. Think of poetry, think of fiction, it creates new meaning and it helps us think bigger ideas and bigger thoughts.